For people that were really looking for added capacity, but more power than 380, it's an excellent choice. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm really excited about today's topic, which is whether or not the .30 Super Carry as a caliber is alive or dead. For those of you that don't know it, it debuted early in 2022, and it was supposed to be the best thing since sliced bread. In fact, the president of Federal Ammunition once said that it was the most significant development in self-defense, period. Now, obviously, a lot of that is a bit of a marketing strategy, but I have a feeling that that's what kind of helped the .30 Super Carry be in the position that it's in today, which is a bit of a niche. Some people would even tell you it was something nobody ever asked for and we never had a need for. There's a ton of videos out there where you can watch how it does in ballistic gel, and we're going to do a little bit of that today. But as I narrate the video, I'm going to try to put a different twist on it for those of you that might be on the fence about .30 Super Carry's capabilities and whether or not you actually need one. I have tried to use like ammunition, but I do apologize. When we tested against the .380 caliber, I got the ammo that I could from SIG. I couldn't get the Remington like for the other two calibers, which I'll explain a little bit more of later. So, real quick, .30 Super Carry, what's it all about? Straight wall cartridge. In my opinion, it looks like a 32 or 327 Federal Magnum, and that's important. We'll talk about that later on as well. The general idea was that it's supposed to be more powerful than 380, slightly less powerful than 9mm, major advantage being that you can get more rounds in the same magazine than you can with a 9. 2 to 3 rounds more per magazine. Now, that's a significant advancement as far as I'm concerned. Firepower is firepower, and when you look at how many rounds are in the mag, that counts. Now, some people would tell you on the other side of that, insignificant. 2 or 3 rounds doesn't make it worth it, but it might. So what I'd like to do first is run it off in some gel, test some penetration against 9mm, and we'll talk about some of its pros and cons as we go. And at the end, we'll catch up and see what everybody's thinking. So when I started to delve into the research and the data on the .30 Super Carry, a lot of negative comments out there. One of the things that surprised me about the comments, however, is this. The gun does exactly what they said it would do when it was released. Originally, Smith & Wesson led the way in the manufacture of the guns. You can get one now in 1911 platform from Nighthawk Custom, and High Point actually makes a carbine in the caliber now as well. They said it's not as powerful as 9, which it probably isn't, develops about 325 foot-pounds of energy, and they said you can put more rounds in the same size gun, which you can. So I'm not sure why it's been vilified to the point that it has, because that's what they said it did. I don't agree that it's the best advancement in defense ever, but if you follow the bouncing ball, they kind of told you what was the purpose of the caliber to begin with. So I have my chrono set up. I'm going to run it right down the middle of some ballistic gel, do some marking and measuring, and then take it back and weigh what we have back in the lab related to weight retention. So first one in the middle. So they also market it as less recoil than a 9mm. Also true. Significantly less? Probably not, but less. Gonna go right beside that one. And you can see entry here. It looks like potentially a stop there. .21.5 inches or so. I'm going to flip over to the other side of the table, see if I can get any better looks at things. Definitely skinnier entry here. This was Remington HTP. Of course, high terminal performance is what that stands for. And this particular variety was, make sure I don't mess this up because they'll be all irritated if I don't say this correctly, 100 grain jacketed hollow point, 1,250 feet per second from Remington. So before shooting the 9mm, which is Remington 124 grain bonded, the speeds that we obtained for the 30 Super Carry were 100 feet per second slower than marked on the box. It could be because we're using a shorter barrel and a lot of other factors, but keep in mind, the standard deviation was good, 2 feet per second between the two shots. That's excellent consistency, but definitely slower than advertised. So now we're going to try some Remington 9mm, and I will try to move it to the bottom right corner to keep everything situated properly. So we fired one. I'm gonna try to move this up a little higher. Off to the edge again though. Slowly, slowly, catchy monkey. So, not terribly for certain where it is. I don't think it would have exited. No evidence of it on the back side. So as it turned out, both of these exited the gel block sort of between the two or in the seam, one kind of on a wonky path, but they performed extremely well related to mushrooming. They did exactly what you would expect a self-defense round to do. What I'm going to do is, when I get back, is dig the other ones out, meaning the 30 Super Carry, and see how they did as far as mushrooming. One of the things to consider using a small diameter caliber as compared to a larger one is you will get smaller wound channels, which related to terminal ballistics is not a positive characteristic. The bigger the hole, the better off you are. When you start off with a small diameter, you're already at a bit of a disadvantage. If you have an underperforming bullet, meaning doesn't mushroom, sorts of compounds the problem. So I'm more than curious to dig that out and see what happened. But 124 grain 9mm, perfect. Before we move on to the 380 demonstration, the reason why we're using 380 is because the 30 Super was marketed as a bridge between 380 and 9. I'm not sure we needed that, but we have it. And that doesn't mean that 30 Super Carry isn't a good caliber. It's just supposed to be better than 380 in stopping power. Our chronograph suggests, despite conventional wisdom, that at least from the Remington Golden Saber 124 9mm, it's actually faster than the 30 Super Carry. It didn't penetrate as far into the gel block, which could be all related to the amount of mass that you're trying to push through the block. They both got more than adequate penetration, but I think the riddle will be solved for us when we get back to see how much the 30 Super Carry did or did not mushroom. In my mind, if it stays more like a untouched projectile, it's going to be more efficient moving through the block, which, despite bigger penetration, I would prefer a bigger wound channel. So all of that remains hidden right now, but is true, the 9mm was faster than the 30 Super Carry. We've used the 380 caliber on the channel multiple times. We did a stopping power video on it some years ago, and I thought it did extremely well and proved itself to be, according to the FBI standard, more than adequate. Now, you do get smaller guns in 380 typically. You don't get a lot of shots. You know, we all know those arguments. So what I like to do is run some 380 from SIG, Elite Performance Ammunition. Now, this will be a full metal jacket. So before everybody goes off about how it's not a jacketed hollow point, we shot jacketed hollow points on the channel before. I'm just basically trying to do a speed comparison related to the 30 Super Carry. So let's see how it goes. And I'll try to go top left corner maybe. going to cheat back over a little bit. Let's go downrange and see what we got. Oh yeah, there's our pretty little bullet. 380, penetrated to about 16 3/4 inches. Before moving on from the 380, I would like to make a couple of comments about felt recoil. A small 380 caliber pistol like the Glock, the recoil to the shooter is about the same as the heavier Smith in 30 Super. Both of those are less than 9mm, but you have to keep in mind, recoil basically translates to out of what? It's common sense that a heavier gun, all calibers being equal, is going to recoil less. You always get something, but you have to give something away. For light and concealable, you're going to feel more recoil. It's simply how it is. Both are manageable, but it is on the bottom of my list as far as whether it's a positive or negative trait, because all of them are controllable with the proper grip and training. Not really a relevant topic to me in these small caliber handguns. So our testing proved out with some interesting results. 30 Super was supposed to be faster. It wasn't. It penetrated more. We have to delve into why that was when we get back to the lab and kind of can go over it by dissection. One of the things I think is critically important that we think about related to 30 Super Carry is divorcing yourself from the idea that it's better than or almost as good as. I think it's a very, very interesting addition to your gun collection. It does everything that they marketed it would. It has more magazine capacity, it's very shootable related to the recoil, and it does get more than adequate penetration. So in a world where a few years ago you couldn't get 9s and 380s were $50 a box, you do have to wonder if having a wide array of handgun calibers is the way to go. I would certainly suggest there's some value in that. Bear in mind, if you read the fine print on things before you sort of buy guns and get into a new caliber because it's supposed to be the end all and be all, we've seen this before. My mind goes back to the 327 Federal Magnum, which was an improvement over 32 H&R, and we covered its history on the channel as well. Unlike the 32, the 30 Super doesn't really have a parent case. It's sort of its own animal. And though not super popular right now, neither was the 5.7 when FN released it. And look at where it's at now. It's difficult to say alive or dead because not enough time has elapsed since its release. I would suggest to you that it will probably become more than a niche market, and for people that were really looking for added capacity, but more power than 380, it's an excellent choice. When I came out to shoot the video today, right now it's selling for about 39 cents around, $16, $17 a box, depending on where you buy it. So not horrible. Certainly not as cheap as 9mm at $12 or $13 a box, but we've known that all along, let's be honest. 40's always been more expensive than 9, and 45 even more so. Cost doesn't really seem to be a deterrent when it's just a few dollars a box more. And it's becoming more and more available as time goes on. So I think availability will get better. Its popularity will get better. Is it as good as 9mm? Probably not. Is it as popular as 9? Well, of course not. Question once again is, what is? I think the 30 Super Carry is in its infancy. It is an excellent choice related to what you want to get out of your everyday carry system. And importantly, that's what it was designed for, not the ultimate utility round like the 9mm. If you consider those factors going into it, I don't think that you're going to be disappointed with your choice. Thanks for watching the video. Don't be afraid to like and subscribe.